One of the most remarkable persons of this generation, or of any generation, of course, is Helen Keller. Physically blind, she is endowed with a great spiritual sight and insight. And this advice she gave to those who can see and can hear and can speak. She said, "I who am blind can give but one hint to those who can see, one admonition to those who would make full use of the gift of sight. Use your eyes as if you would be stricken blind." Well, that's worthwhile advice from one who knows so well what she's talking about. Use your eyes as one who would be stricken blind. Imagine most of us would do a much better job of looking if we were forever living under the shadow of that. People can do such a poor job of seeing. A tourist climbed one of the magnificent heights in the Swiss Alps, and he turned to another traveler already there, and he said, "I hear that there is a worthwhile view up here. Where is it?" There it was, spread out so gloriously before him, and he just didn't see. In the 4th chapter of John, the disciples had tried to get Jesus to eat, and his reply was that he had meat to eat that they knew not of. This puzzled them because they were accustomed to take literally whatever Jesus said to them, and he went on to explain that his real food was to do the work that God had given him to do. He intimated that they knew that there were supposed to be 4 months, and then would come the harvest, but I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look unto the fields, for they are white already to the harvest. In the Gospel according to Matthew, it says, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Pray, therefore, the Lord of the harvest to send laborers into his harvest. This was a matter of much greater concern to him at the moment than the eating of food, and he was telling his disciples that the evidence was there for them to see if they would only open their eyes and look. Now, of course, there are many things that blind us in these days of our year. It's not a new problem that Jesus had to cope with. Frequently throughout the gospel, you find him making some kind of reference to sight or to the lack of it. He spoke of a certain people who were dull of hearing and whose eyes were closed. He spoke in another place of the one who saw the mote in his brother's eye but did not recognize the beam that was in his own eye. As he looked down on Jerusalem, he said, if thou hadst known, even thou at least in this thy day, the things which belong to thy peace, but now they are hid from thine eyes. There's so much that through the centuries have hidden things from people's eyes, and the day in which we are living is no exception. Don't we, for instance, allow our problems to blind us at times to the things that may be even more important at the moment than our problems? I know of one man who was walking one day with a friend by the ocean. Never had the Atlantic been more beautiful than it was in this day. But this man was not seeing. He was preoccupied with something. All of a sudden he said, I've got it. And he went on to relate how he was having trouble with certain bottlenecks in production at the factory, and suddenly realized the change that he could make that would take care of it. And the friend who told this tale said that it was very characteristic of him, that he never got away from his business problem. He had never known him to make a remark on the beauty of anything. Everything that he did funneled his thoughts into the area of business and the problems of business. The breaking waves, the sunset, the flowers peeking out from beneath the rocks. He just never saw them. He had problems, and those problems affected everything he saw. They will do it. Many a home is starving for just a little affection, a little attention on the part of him who is the head of the house. The evidence is everywhere. It's in the look that the family gives him when he comes home. It's in the quiet around the dinner table when the family doesn't dare to bring up any little problem that may have come to them that day at school. It's in the fear that they seem to have of him every time that he speaks. He is a problem of a bottleneck in production at the factory, or he is an ornery partner, or he is something, you name it, he has it. But it so blinds him that he can see himself losing these things when it's too late for the realization of it. And he's in danger of losing all of the things that make production at the factory worthwhile. So many things that blind us. There's the desire for material things that can shut out all else. There is quest for comfort that draws a blind down every time one's peace is threatened, even if it's threatened by the sorry plight of someone that we ought to be helping. There's the color of one's skin that can blind us completely to any other merit that there is in that person. There is jealousy, there is covetousness that can color everything we see. There is our political party, a favorite candidate that can make it difficult for us to see anything worthwhile in any other party or any other candidate. In the present campaign, there is a concentration on the two presidential candidates, well nigh to the oblivion of all other persons who are running for office. And often this concentration becomes so fierce, it becomes so acrimonious that the issues before the nation would appear to be secondary matters. If things continue to go the way they have been going, this election can well turn out to be one of America's less intelligent efforts. And so it's a good emphasis that this text is bringing to it. Lift up your eyes, it says. You're seeing things on too low a plane. Lift up your eyes and look on the field. See the job. See the issues. But really look at your problem. And use your eyes as if tomorrow you might be stricken blind. Not easy to do it, not easy in a great variety of fields. Ralph Johnson tells of going into a 5 and 10 cent store with his wife, and while she was making her purchases, he wandered up and down the aisle looking at the great variety of goods that could be bought in the store, and he hadn't wandered very far when a young lady came up to him and asked if she might wait on him, and he quickly said, "No, thank you, I'm just looking." And then all of a sudden he realized that he did a great deal of that in life. Just looking, but not seeing. Like the woman in Boston who ran her automobile into a tree, and when the policeman asked the question, "Did you not see the tree?" she said, "Yes, I saw it, but I didn't realize it." It's that form by which there is a value, of course, in just looking. Be a dangerous business if we so concentrated on every detail that we see that we burdened our minds with it. There isn't very much value in some of these games that we play on occasion where you just have an opportunity to look at a picture quickly and then you try to remember everything that you have seen. Or somebody asks you, what is the sign that's across from a certain hotel? Not much value in that. Why in the world should we try to remember these things? There's a great mass of detail out there that if we tried to gather the whole things into our minds, we'd be burdened down and we would be old people long before our day. But there is a tremendous value in cultivating this business of discernment, of being able to look at things and in some great way being able to pick out that which is important and concentrating on that, on learning to sift the essential from the non-essential. As Moses, you recall, was so fearful of the people of Egypt after he had killed the man, and he knew that he had been seen in the act, and so it was that he ran away and he got married and was tending the sheep of his father-in-law, Jethro, and then he is walking out by the hillside, and there were so many things there that might have been seen, but his eye was trained to catch the unusual. And so he sees a bush. He sees a fire, he sees a burning, but it is not consumed. And from that a fire is made to glow in the heart of Moses, and we know what he went on to do. Often, you see, the trouble is that there are things there that everybody has a chance to see, but they have never trained themselves to look for something unusual there. They've never learned to sift that essential from the non-essential. One of the great newspaper men of this nation is associated with the name James Otis. He was only in his teens when he went to get his first job at the Boston Herald. The editor looked on him. He wasn't particularly interested in the young lad. He didn't want to offend him. And so he told him to go down to the Boston Common and find a story. Otis didn't know that this was merely an effort on the part of the editor to bury the young lad. And he went and he sat on the benches, and in a very few moments, he had his story. A story in something that probably thousands of people had seen before. The initials and the little messages that people had carved on the park benches. That was his story, and that was his job. Something that people had seen for years, but they had never really realized. Jesus got so much out of what he saw. He got it out of the children in their play. He got it out of the flowers in their fields. He got it from the sheep. He got it from the shepherds. He got it from the man who was sowing grain in the field, and when he saw them, he saw there the fullness of God and the glory of God. Kind of thing that made a Joyce Kilmer to see trees with a nest of robins in the hair, or Shakespeare to see daffodils taking the winds of March with beauty. Wordsworth finding in the meanest flower thoughts that often do lie too deep for tears. Use your eyes. Use your eyes as if you would be stricken blind. And of course, use them not only to see life's beauty, but the danger that threatens life's beauty. Isn't it a sad commentary that after some 2,000 years of the Gospels and almost 3,000 years of the Ten Commandments, civilization has finally come to the place where it has the weapons by which it may destroy itself. And it not only seems to have the weapons, but it also would appear to have the foolhardiness as well. I read this summer about a certain Mr. Winslow who came over on the Mayflower. And he was to be New England's first builder of furniture. It was his task to help build houses and to furnish those houses. But history tells us that he was so busy making coffins that he had difficulty finding time for anything else. Now, there's something ominous about that item of history. The billions that are spent for war, past, present, future. The man-hours that are spent building coffins, if you will. The problems that we are getting ourselves into from a prosperity that someone has said results in part from the production of arms that we do not expect to use, in part from our new way of getting rich, which is to buy things from one another that we do not want, at prices we cannot pay, on terms we cannot meet, because of advertising we do not believe. And along with that, these isms that every now and then we feel eating into us like a cancer. And suddenly we begin to realize that the commandment, "Thou shalt have no other God before me," that we have been denying this. And temporarily we become a bit fearful. And we begin to look. And of course, we shouldn't just see life as a static thing, always that we should be alert to the growing edge of it, to the opportunities that are in it. Lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white already to the harvest. Jesus saw men ready to turn to him. He saw them ready to accept the gospel, and all was needed was a little help in the harvest. This opportunity was forever resting with the church, and there's an urgency in it. Helen Keller said, "Use your eyes as if you'd been stricken blind." Just as urgent as that, this is what faces the Christian church. Frightening to think that there are millions of people in this nation and in this world who will hear the gospel of Jesus Christ today, or they will never hear it. The world's just as uncertain as that. The pressure's just as urgent as that. The kind of thing that led one of our old American preachers to say that he never got up into the pulpit without realizing that there is someone listening to me today who won't be alive this time next week. This is the last sermon he's going to hear. Puts a weight of responsibility on one. Makes one to feel something of the urgency that there is in this business, and that while there is yet day, we who are disciples should be at work, and we should be at work conscientiously. We can't all be foreign missionaries, but we can all be doing something. It may be some problem in the community that has been crying to us to do something on it, but we have never gotten around to it. It may be something in the church that we've been criticizing for years and never really have asked ourselves, is there something here that we could do about it? Or it may just be one of these thousands of people, individuals, who need a word, who need just a little lift from us. We walk down the street and we see in the rush hour these people walking around, and we don't think too seriously what may be going on in those minds of theirs, or what may be going on in their homes. But one editor in an Eastern newspaper tried to pull them apart. This is what he was sure he was seeing. People on any street appear to be on trivial errands, but their look, he said, is misleading. For in the jostling throng, there is a boy headed for his draft board, another for a physician's office to learn the results of a medical test. There is a new widow. Next to her, a woman seeking a divorce. There's a lonely girl meeting a stranger downtown. Behind her, a girl going to a confessional. There's a couple trying to borrow money for a down payment on property, and another family on their way to pick out a casket. The city is filled with people like that. For those who will see, that's the field, right to the heart. And of course, that great thing that was seen in the book of Hebrews. Remember Moses was leading the people out of Israel, into Israel out of Egypt. And it says that he left Egypt not fearing the anger of the king, because he endured seeing him who is invisible. Paul was touching on the same thing when he said, in our light affliction, which is but for a moment, worketh for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. While we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. That's our faith. The great eternals are more than the physical eye can see, and there are those that become so much richer because they see them in the light of him who is invisible. everything else that comes before their eyes is richer and more meaningful because of him. Blessed is the man who uses his eye like that. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.